The next great resource for local weather is now available.
DigitalWeatherDesk.com is your source for up-to-the-minute local weather. Add DigitalWeatherDesk.com to your favorites, download our app, and follow me on social media. The Digital Weather Desk, powered by Century Next Bank.
Good afternoon, welcome on in, and thanks for making our midday stream part of your day. Louisiana Cooker, thanks for joining us on YouTube. And thanks for being part of the Digital Weather Desk powered by Century Next Bank. Today's forecast made possible by the United Way of Northeast Louisiana and their 211 initiative. Storm stress is real. 211 can connect you to trained call specialists to offer a friendly voice and help you navigate through your situation. Most locations not really expecting thunderstorms. We will keep an eye on the snow potential. We'll address the latest data with that coming up in just a few minutes. And there's also some rain chances next week. That shows where we are in our environment, that we get the smallest bit of excitement about the most minuscule rain chances for next week. Before we go anywhere, I'm going to go full screen for just a second, not because I want you to check out my Digital Weather Desk hoodie. This is a limited edition, by the way, which means this is the only one. Not because of that, but because I immediately remembered it's Thursday, the drought monitor is out, and I forgot to throw it into the sequence. So we're going to get right to that and get to that in just a second. So here's a look at the visible satellite as we started off with. Again, quite a bit of sunshine across the area. That's not a big surprise. On our way to what should be a pretty quiet rest of the day. And yes, I'm multitasking and looking at a completely different computer. Here's a look at the radar. Radar always made possible by Brown's Roofing. Every shingle radar product made possible by Brown's Roofing. Schedule your free roof inspection at brownsroofingla.com. I was just checking to make sure that the drought monitor updated the way it was supposed to. Because sometimes it's tough to see if the drought monitor actually changed that much because there's such subtle changes at times. Nothing doing on the radar. Here's the drought monitor. Talked so much about it. Not a whole lot has drastically changed across the region. The severe drought conditions really blanketing much of southern Arkansas and much of our southern parishes and counties. Along the I-20 corridor, it's moderate drought conditions, and there's still some abnormally dry spots sprinkled in here or there. Alice, good morning or good afternoon. Thank you for joining in. Temperatures this afternoon, low to mid 40s for the most part, on our way to the upper 40s. Some areas could see the 50-degree mark, but along the Mississippi Valley, it's still quite chilly. 43 in Vicksburg, 40 in Greenville, 46 El Dorado, 45 in Monroe. Dew points are dry. Holy moly, Monticello, is that right? Hang on. Again, going back to the other computer. So I'm glad it's here. So the reading of the dew point in Monticello is 0. It's not that they don't have one. It's just that it's registered at 0. But also in full disclosure, that particular site has been running drier than normal for the last couple of weeks, and I'm wondering if that's an instrumentation error. Either way, dew points are still quite dry, teens across most of the area, and that gives a lot of spots the wiggle room to cool off quickly tonight, but as southerly winds crank up across the area, it will keep us a smidge warmer than we were this morning. A lot of us were well below freezing to start the day, but those winds are already in the process of becoming more westerly, and as we go later into the day, they should become southerly. In fact, here's a look at Futurecast, made possible by Bayou Power Sports I-20 Frontage Road in Monroe. Again, overnight, the winds are out of the south, and so that should grab some warmer air and send it inland through the course of the overnight, and temperatures will fall off into the mid-30s rather quickly, but as those southerly winds start cranking up around midnight, temperatures will kind of level off, and they may even climb a few degrees by daybreak tomorrow. By tomorrow afternoon, by around midday, winds will be quite breezy out of the southwest, maybe in the 20 to 25 mile an hour range in some spots. I think most spots will generally be in the 10 to 20 mile an hour range with higher gusts. Nonetheless, it will be a breezy day tomorrow. And then the northwesterly winds behind the front. Then we await that secondary piece of energy, that secondary boundary, whatever you want to call it, as it starts to move through the area Saturday. And that's the one that brings the very minuscule chances of snowfall. Speaking of those snow chances, here's a look at Futurecast. And again, kind of going in the same general pattern graphics-wise that I have been over the last couple of days, just so you can kind of compare and contrast. If you've been following the last few streams, then you kind of know where we're going in terms of, I'm going to show you this one, then I'm going to show you the worst case scenario, this was the worst case scenario in terms of heaviest snowfall totals and most widespread snow. For a lot of snow lovers, that's the best case scenario. But in terms of extreme impactful weather, it was the worst case scenario. Regardless, this is the Barron 3K, and again, that's what it was illustrating yesterday. You can see the weak cold front, tomorrow afternoon's cold front as it's draped across the region. The wind shift generally in this area right here. And so temperatures will fall off as we go into Friday night and Saturday morning, maybe even a thin band of shower activity late tomorrow as well. Then that secondary piece of energy starts to work through the region on Saturday afternoon. Temperatures fall from near 50 degrees during the early parts of the afternoon into the 30s late that night. But note, where did all the snow go? Where did it go? Well, this model has trended much drier with the colder air. And again, I've stressed that enough, or I've tried to stress it, and I can't stress it enough, that cold air is dense and it is dry. So that as temperatures continue to fall, most of the moisture that you have associated with that air mass that's sinking into place usually gets zapped. And there's just usually not a lot of moisture sources that we can tap into with cold air in place that generates snowfall or wintry precipitation of some sort. It has to be the perfect alignment of ingredients. So this particular model run says, no, we get cold, we get too dry, the moisture gets zapped, and pretty much everything's gone. Here's a look at the American GFS model, and this one has been the outlier in terms of being pretty insistent and consistent in bringing some light snow into the region. Again, it has the cold front through the area late tomorrow evening. A spotty shower can't be ruled out. We trend colder with that secondary piece of energy arriving into the area Saturday. Very, very light snow returns across southern Arkansas and northern Louisiana. Again, if we were talking rainfall, this would be drizzle. But we're talking snow, so it gets a lot more attention. Again, those returns stay very, very light as we go through the daytime hours on Saturday, the nighttime hours Saturday into early Sunday. Skies clear quickly through the rest of the day on Sunday. And before we go any farther in the graphics sequence, I want to see which model run. Okay, that was still the 12Z GFS. It looked different, but it was the same. I'll look at mid-level winds, and again, the old cold front from yesterday is now represented by this deep trough of low pressure out over the southeastern United States. So we're pulling in a lot of sunshine and dry air in the upper levels of the atmosphere. As we go into the day tomorrow, as we mentioned, that next cold front moves through the region, part of almost a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 setup. Disturbance 1 bringing that first band of cloud cover in the actual probably initial boundary itself. And then this disturbance is really what drives the small rain chances and the actual cool down as we go later into the day on Friday. Then the secondary piece of energy, lobe of energy, secondary trough, secondary boundary, whatever you want to call it, is this trough of low pressure that is now expanded out across much of the central and southern United States late Saturday night into Sunday. And again, could set up with a conveyor belt of moisture of sorts that could generate rain, and some of that, as colder air sinks in, could generate to snowfall. But I will say again, a lot of the computer models have started to kind of trend away from that. Trend drier. Not that they're trending away from the setup or the upper level pattern. It's just, again, there's only so much moisture to work with, and a lot of it, as you get closer and closer to a potential event, the computer models kind of grasp the fact that, wow, this air is really, really dry. I don't think it's going to snow. And then the models trend that direction. Winds pick up with this little subtle weak disturbance middle parts of next week. I think that's probably our next chance of rainfall. For next Wednesday, we'll keep an eye on that. Thunderstorms appear unlikely. But it probably starts to roll us out into the second half of the month of January, where we could start to see just a slightly more active pattern. Does that mean severe weather? Not necessarily. Does that mean winter weather? Not necessarily. Does that even mean rainfall? Not necessarily. It just means more active pattern, more frequent fronts, more disturbances in the atmosphere. Sometimes that just means clouds. Sometimes that means cooler air. Sometimes it means big storm systems. Again, active, more frequent storm systems disturbances in the atmosphere. So here's a look at the snowfall totals. This is the Barron 3K. Again, yesterday, worst case scenario. Today, nothing. For what it's worth, I'm not going to show you the European data. The European model has insistently been dry. It's been the whole time going, no snow, no. And it's a higher resolution global model than the GFS. So that's something to take into account. And it's also just performed better in terms of forecasting the weather over the last 3 months plus. Maybe 3 to 6 months. Maybe even longer than that. Depends on who you ask. But, so this is the Baron 3K. Nothing. American model, GFS. The outlier in our area, and it has extremely light snow totals. I showed you this morning. I'll go back to it right now. It's the probability of snowfall, basically rain chances except with snow. It still has a good chunk of northern Louisiana, up to about a 10% chance of snowfall, light snowfall, late Saturday night into early Sunday. Those chances drop off along the Mississippi Valley as we go into Sunday morning. Daytime highs for the rest of the day right at 50. Some spots should get to at least 50 degrees. There's a lot of sunshine out there, but winds will continue out of the northwest. Lows tonight fall back into the mid to upper 30s. Good afternoon, May and Janice and Janet. Thank you so much for joining in. Lows tonight, mid to upper 30s. Winds out of the south, 5 to 10 miles per hour under generally clear skies. Some high clouds could sneak back in across portions of southern Arkansas overnight. Look at the 7-day forecast made possible by 3B Hardware. Again, can't stress enough that the precip chances for Saturday night are quite light, but they remain in the forecast. I have not taken them out except in southern Arkansas. Southern Arkansas and the northern sections of the Mississippi Valley, Greenville, and some of those areas, I've went ahead and zapped your precip chances for Saturday. You're back to 0. Northern Louisiana, 10%. All the way to Vicksburg along the I-20 corridor, those areas, 10%. Anywhere in our southern counties and parishes south of I-20, you guys are still rolling at around 20%. And that's for Saturday night into Sunday morning. Again, if anything falls, it would probably be in the form of light snowfall or flurries. Accumulations are not expected. In fact, most areas, if they do see snowfall, would probably be above freezing during that stretch. Lisa's flying into Atlanta Saturday, hoping nothing enough to delay the flights from Atlanta to Monroe. Probably not. I would think that if the bigger headache would be if something crazy were to happen, would be getting into Atlanta. I don't think getting out of here would be the problem. So unless something really nuts happens. Aside from that, let's look at the forecast midday. Again, not a whole lot happening here in the short term. We'll trend warmer tomorrow, but breezy. Cooler Saturday, colder Sunday. We'll probably bring another front through the area on Monday. That drops temperatures again. And I think that's the other thing that I don't want to get lost in the sauce, if you will, as we go through the next couple of days and into the next week, is just how cold our overnight lows will be Sunday morning, and then again Monday morning, and then again Tuesday morning. That's me hitting the clipboard. 23 is what I have for the forecast low in El Dorado on Sunday. I have El Dorado at 27 Monday morning, 25 on Tuesday morning. Monroe and Monroe and Natchez, both also below freezing by several degrees for a couple of mornings next week. So just take note of that. Be aware of that. Again, forecast lows for your particular location can be found at digitalweatherdesk.com and on the app, available for Apple and Android users. If you need links for those, you can also go to digitalweatherdesk.com. I'll join you a little bit later today, probably between 4 and 5 o'clock as we get ready for the weekend. Fishing game forecast comes out at 8 p.m. tonight. And if anything happens between now and then that I think you need to know about, of course, that's what we do here. And again, the forecast is always available on the web and on the app. Thanks so much for making this part of your day. As always, I'm so glad you're here. Have a great rest of your Thursday, everybody.